Hello all, welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm KD Vineet. I'm currently a newbie at Code Forces. Today we will discuss the solutions to the problems of Code Forces round 764. So let's get started. We'll start with the first problem, which is plus one on the subset. Okay. Before we go to the problems, I will just present you like the order of difficulty. So sometimes the order of difficulty may not be matched exactly, but yeah, in this context, the problems are in increasing difficulty. For some problems, E and F, the implementation is a bit like for like E problem at least, implementation was a bit lengthy, so it has less submissions. But I guess overall we can say the difficulty of the problem was increasing. Okay, so let's start with the first problem. Plus one on the subset. Polycarp got an array. So you are given an array. What you can do is in one operation, you can select some elements and increase all of them by one. So if you're given this, you can increase first, second, and fourth element, first, second, and fourth. You will make it 53172. So the problem has not much to say. What we want to do is we want to find the minimum number of operation so that we can make all of them equal. I guess the problem is pretty straightforward. So you would never want to increase the maximum element, and you want the minimum element to become equal to the maximum element as well. So what you just do it, you start from the minimum element, you increase like all the elements which are minimum, you increase them by one. Then you take all the minimum elements in the new array and then increment by one. So suppose in this case, we'll first increment this element by one, which makes it two. Then we'll increment 2 by 1, which make them 3 3 3. We make 3 3 3 by 1, which make them 4 4 4, and then 5 and then 6. So the idea is you just start from the minimum and go to the maximum, and on the way you take up more elements as they come in. So in this way you can make all of the elements equal to the maximum element. That's the idea. I will show you the solution code. So you just take the array, you sort the array, and your answer is the maximum element minus the minimum element, which is, I guess, which should be pretty clear. So let's go on to the next element, next problem. So this would be like a quick video. So you might be not able to understand some things in the code. I would not go into the details of the code for all the problems. So if you get some query in the code, you can ask in the comments. Okay, so let's go on to the next problem, which is B, make AP. So we are given three elements, three positive integers A and B, A, B, and C. And you can do the following operation exactly once. What you can do is you can select any positive integer m. It can be from 1 to infinity. And you multiply exactly 1 of ABC by m. Suppose you select m as say 10 and you multiply b by 10. So now your new element would be A, 10B, C. What you want to do is you want to do this operation exactly once and you want to ensure that A, B, and C is an AP. You want to ensure that A, B, C becomes AB. This is a simple brute force problem. What you do is you see if you can say, suppose the problem was we have to multiply M to A. So what we can do is we will find if the three were in AP, then what would have been A, what value of A would make them in AP. Now, can we make our current element A equal to that element which is required? Similarly, we can do for B and C. So I'll show you the code that should give more clarity for this problem since it's simple brute force. Okay. So we take in the input three elements, the three numbers A, B, and C. A is the value you need to make A to so that the sequence is AP, and so if ABC were in AP, then the common difference would be BC, and thus A would be B minus the difference, which is C minus B. So this should be the value of A if the three wants to be in AP. BB would be A plus C by 2 because if A, B, and C are AP and A and C are correct, then B must be A plus C by 2. If A, B, C are in AP and A and B are correct, then the common difference would be B minus A and C should be equal to B plus the difference, which is B plus B minus A. So these are the values, they should be there. Now we just check in if it's possible to make them. So if AA is greater than 0, because we need M to be a positive value. So if A is greater than 0 and the modulo of A and A is 0, this means we can multiply a number M with A and make it AA. So if you multiply A with a number, then that particular number will be divisible by A. So the remainder should be 0. So if the number which A should become is greater than 0 and it is like divisible by A, then we return true. So basically, whenever we return true, the code will print yes. Else, and if we return false, it will print no. So if that condition is true, then we can multiply. We have a particular M such that they would become AP. So we return true. Similarly, if BB is positive, BB is the value B should become, so that the three are in AP. So if there is if PB is positive, it is divisible by B, and A plus C is even, because like B cannot be like A plus C cannot be odd, because A plus C is equal to 2B. So basically we can check if A plus C is equal to 2B, that condition can also be there. A plus C, suppose A was 1 and C was 4, then 1 plus 4 would be 5 and 5 by 2 would be 2. And thus, like, B might be 2 and we might print yes, but that would not do. So A plus C should be even, and similarly CC should be greater than 0, or it is divisible by C, then also we will return true. If neither of these three can be done, we return false. There can be better implementation for some of the problems, but I just tried to done like the best way I could find during the contest. So they might not be the best way to explain the code all the time. So that's the second problem, make AP. Let's go on to the third problem, division by 2 and permutation. So this is also a nice problem. You're given n positive integers, and in one operation, you can replace any of the elements of the array AI with AI by 2, like that, the simple division, rounding down. You need to find if it's possible to make the given array a permutation. A permutation is nothing but an array of length n which has all the integers from 1 to n in any order. So you are given the array, you need to find if you can divide by 2 operation, do that any number of time and make the array a permutation. So what we'll do is, suppose you are given a number, suppose you know 25. Then what are the numbers you can make from 25? You can make it 25, not do anything. You can make it 12, 6, 3, then 1. And then you can make it 0. So for a particular number, you can make it a lot of numbers. And now you need to find if you can take some combination of these and make a permutation. So basically here we apply kind of a greedy technique. So what we do is we take a number and we divide it. We can see if this particular number has already been made or not. Now the greedy technique is, if you can make a larger number, prefer it over making a smaller number, because once you have made a larger number, if you need to make a smaller number, you can make it from some other numbers as well. So basically, a smaller number can be made by more numbers than a larger number. So it's important to make the larger number. Like, this is kind of an intuitive thing. You can actually prove it as well, but I'm not going into the details because you can get it if you just try out a few cases. So the thing is, with a number, you will keep on dividing it. If you and at each point you will check if this number is already made or not. If it's made, then you proceed. You are like, you divide by 2 again. If it's not made, then you allocate it to that particular number and go ahead. And that like the why we are doing this is because it's important for us to make the larger number first, and only if it's made, or if we cannot make, we go to the smaller number. So let's see the code. So we take in the input, we sort the array, we define visited of n plus 1, which is like if a particular number is taken or not. We go into the elements of the array in create like reverse order. You can go in any order as well, but just for a bit of clarity, we go in reverse order. And So like while the number is greater than n, we divide it by 2. After that, while the number is not 0, if the number is not visited, so if the number is not visited, then we make it visited and we break. Yeah, else we divide it by 2. So we keep on dividing by 2 until we find an element which is not visited. In the end, we just check if there is at least one element which is not visited, then we can't do anything and we will answer no. Else, all the elements are visited at once, or are visited, and thus we print yes. So that's the solution for the C problem. Let's go on to the next, which is palindrome coloring. This is like a nice problem for the D1. So what are you given is you're given a string S of lowercase Latin alphabets. What you can do is you can assign each character in the string a color between 1 to k. So colors are numbered from 1 to k. You may not paint all the colors as well, but each color must have at least one character painted. So that thing should be there. After that, what you can do is you can swap the characters which have the same color, and then you treat all the characters which have the same color as a string in the particular order that you have arranged them. So you list out all the k strings that are there. You want to do this assignment and rearrangement in such a way that all these k strings are palindromes, and uh, when you have done such assignment such that all of them are palindrome, another thing that you have to ensure is the minimum length palindrome has the maximum length. So the like you want to maximize the minimum length palindrome. So let's take some example. Suppose we take the string, we take this string, and we have k equal to 2. So this is our string with 8 characters, and we have k equal to 2. So for k equals to 1, we can do something, and for k equals to 2. So basically, one thing which you can do is you can see that we can take the string, and like the order of the character doesn't matter because we can change it as per we wish. And now what we can do is we can just assign each of them to either k equal to 1, or like the color equal to 1, or color equal to 2. And we can not take some characters as well. That's also fine. So here, let's see. So we have 1b, we have 2x, we have 2a's, 2y's, and 1z. So what we would do here is we have this 8 characters. So yeah. So we assign a to say this one, x to say this one, and then another thing we can do is assign say b in between this, and z in between this, or y in between this as well. So basically, a palindrome would have one part equal to the other part, and in the middle, it may either have a character if it's an odd length palindrome, or it may not have a character. But apart from the middle character, all the characters would pair up. So you can see that. And in this case, we can't assign more characters. You can assign y to say this one and make it of length 4, but you can't assign the remaining character z because assigning it would make it not a palindrome anymore. So this is like the maximum assignment we can do, and in this case, the minimum length palindrome has length 3. So the answer for this problem is 3 because we have done the assignment in the best possible way. Now we would see what we can do. So the first thing is we calculate the frequency of each character, how many times a character occurs in the string. So you find out the frequency of each character. Once you have done that, what you can see is you want the characters to be in pair in a palindrome. Because one would be on the left side, one would be on the right side. So you want the characters to be in pair. So suppose A is say 2, so we know it has one pair. Suppose X or Y was 4 times, then we have 2 pairs of Y. And here we have 0 pairs of Y. So then we calculate the number of pairs of elements that are there and the number of individual characters that are there. Once we have the total number of pairs, say, then what we can do is we can assign the pairs to all the colors. So we assign the first pair to say the first color, second pair to second color, and so on up till k. Then starting it again and so on. So we assign the pair of elements to each of the colors, and we keep on doing this. At one point, we would have no more pairs left, and we would have assigned, say, some pairs to each color from 1 to k. Now what you can see is, so let's go on to the code. I guess that should give a bit more clarity. Yeah. So, so what we do is we take in the input and we calculate the frequency of each character. I've not taken the string because the order of the string does not matter. We can change the order as per we want. Yeah, we increment each character's frequency and find out the frequency of each character. After that, what we do is for each character, we find out the number of pairs. So its frequency by 2 will give us the number of pairs for it. And if it's odd, we have one extra character left. One extra character left. If it's even, we don't have an extra character left. So total would give us the number of total pairs, and int would give us the number of individual characters that are left. After that, what we can do is we assign the pairs to each of the key colors, and we can put them on the leftmost and the rightmost side so as to ensure that the palindrome is always maintained. That done, we know, suppose in the end we have say 12 pairs and our k was 5. Then what we know is each of the 5 colors would have got 2 pairs, but 2 more pairs, 2 more colors would have got one extra pair. Since we want to ensure that like the minimum length is maximum, we won't waste our pairs here because the minimum won't change with this. So with this 12 by 5, which is 2. So we give total by k pairs to each of them. After that, we would be left with total modulo k characters, and we multiply it by 2 because these are pair. So we would be left with these many extra characters, and these are the individual characters that were there. And after this, so these are the total number of extra characters we have with us after this assignment. And now what we can do is, so yeah, now what we can do is, using these extra characters, we can give one character, like these are the pairs, so 2 pair, 2 pair, 2 pair, 2 pair. These were 12 pairs and k was 5. Now what we can do is these extra characters, we can give exactly one to each of them. So each of the 5 colors. So our current length would be 2 times al, which was total by k, because these elements we have given to all. And if the extra characters we have is greater than k, then we do length plus plus. Why? Because only if we can give one character to each 5 of them, our minimum length would increase by 1. So if we give only to some of them, or we give 2 to some of them, our minimum won't change. To change the minimum, we would have to give one character to all of them, and we can do that only if the extra characters is greater than equal to the number of colors. And thus we print the length. I hope the problem is clear. Let's go on to the next problem, which is Masha forgetful. This, I guess, a nice problem. What you're given is you have n phone numbers, each of which is of length m. Since it's a phone number, it contains only the digits from 0 to n. What you are additionally given is you're given another string s, which is like a new phone number you have just received, and you want to remember it using just the n phone numbers that you have. So how do we remember how Masha remembers her phone number is the new phone number must be a combination of segments of the previous number. So let's say the new phone number that you have received is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and previously you knew these all phone numbers. So this 1 2 3 4 5 7 8 can be divided as the previous segments, we can take 1, 2, 3, 4 from here. We can take 5, 6 from here, or maybe we can take 5, 6, 7, 8 completely from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and if you club them, you will get this complete number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the thing is, we can get the new phone number S here in this particular example with some segments of the previous numbers, and each segment that we take should be of length at least 2. That thing should be ensured. So yeah, there are other ways to represent S as well in this particular problem. What we want to do is we are given the n numbers of length m each and another new number S of length m again, and we want to know if it's possible to make this new number using just the segments of the previous number. So each number would have MC2, like roughly O of m square subsegments, and there are n such numbers. So there would be roughly n into m total number of segments, which looks a bit over our limits. So we can't do that here. But there's another thing which we can do. So there's one nice observation. So we need to make the new string as just with the segments of the previous strings. So a good thing to observe is, suppose we have our new segment S. So this is the segment we made, and we make it from some segments of the original numbers that we have. Suppose it was made with 3 segments. Say this is of length 5, this is of length 7, and this is of length 8. And these are all of belongs to some continuous segment of some previous numbers. Then what we can do is we can divide this particular segment into 2 parts of length 3 and 2. And this is again like all of these particular segments are greater than length 2, and these as well belong to a previous element. Similarly, we can divide this into 2, 2, and 3, and this into 2, 2, 2, 2. You can divide into 2, 3, 3 as well, and other ways as well. But yeah, you can divide into this. So the claim is you can make the new phone number if there is some way to make the phone number using segments of length greater than 2 of such that the segments belong to the previous phone numbers. There also exists a way to make them using just the segments of length 2 and 3. Using just 2 and 3, because if a segment of length 5 exists in the previous phone, then a segment of length 3 and 2 also exists, such that they would club to make this 5-digit number. So we can reframe the problem as, is it possible to make a new string just using segments of length 2 and 3 from the previous phone number? And now segments of length 2 and 3 would be of the order of m for each of the n phone numbers. So you can iterate over them. So I'll just show you the implementation now. Okay. Yeah, so this is my implementation. Again, it may not be the best, but it should give you a good idea. So since I have implemented in the context, it may not be the perfect, the ideal code you would want. Okay, so we take in the input and store it in a 2D matrix. You can store it as forms of strings as well. So yeah, so you store the phone numbers. After that, P3 and P2. So what does P3 denote? P3 denote does a segment of length 3 exist in the given phone numbers, and P2 denotes does a segment of length 2 exist in the previous phone numbers. So since these are phone numbers, a segment of length 2 would be a number between 1 and 99, and a segment of length 3 would always be a number between 1 and 1000, so 1 and 999. And since there are these constraints, we can store these numbers in a form of an array. You can make a 3D matrix and a 2D matrix as well, but this looks a bit more clean to me. So yeah, so P3 denotes is that particular number, represent it as a 3-digit number possible in the previous strings, and similarly for P2. P3R and P2R, so basically in the end, we also need to print. So in the end, what we need to print is if it's possible or not to make the new number with the previous strings. If it's not possible, you print -1. If it's possible, what you do is you need to print the segments. And how you would print the segment is, you would print the phone number, the old phone number in which it belongs to, and its coordinate L2R in that particular phone number. So yeah. So what we do is P3R and P2R denotes uh, the right coordinate of the given number which we are checking. So suppose we are checking 567. So is 567 present as a substring, as a subsegment in the previous number, which we can see in the example exist in this string. So P3, since it's a 3-digit string, P3 of 567 would be equal to 3 because it's the third like which would be equal to 1 because it's possible. It will store the number 3 because it's in the third string, and P3R of 567 would be 3 because it's the third number. And if you see here, 567 would have the right coordinate of it is 7th position, and it is third position here. So how we'll store them? We go over the phone numbers. We go over the numbers from 2 to m, and now we store that particular, like we find that particular 2-digit number. So ai of j minus 1 would be the previous character into 10 plus ai of j. This gives you that number, like the two characters represented as a single number of 2-digit. We denote P2 of number as I because it's in the ith string, and P2R, which is the right index of it, as J because its right coordinate is J. Similarly, we do for P3. So now we know if a particular number exists or not. Let's see what we do next. So the next thing is kind of like a DP. So first of all, you store in the new number that you want to make. Now we would see if it's possible. Let's see if it's possible to make the new number or not. So we define position of m plus 1 as 0, which is like position is is a DP, which indicates, so position of I indicates, is it possible to make the subsegment 1 to I of the new substring using just the previous, like using just the old numbers. That is position of I. And now what we do is we define position of 0 as 0, 0 as 1, because you can make, so it would be 0 or 1. If you can make it 1, if you cannot make it 0. Now you iterate over the numbers. If the index is greater than 1, then what you can do is, okay, let me explain it with the diagram. So we go into our new phone numbers from left to right. Suppose we are at a particular position. We know that we would have used the last segment which we would have used would be either of length 2 or of length 3. So if it was of length 2, we would check, is this number possible in the previous strings which we have stored previously in P2 num. And so for this number it should be possible, and the last number which use is a 2-digit subsegment. Then we check, is the last 2 digits possible in the previous numbers, and additionally position of this should be 1. Basically this should also be able, we should also be able to make this from the previous numbers. So this should be true and this should be possible in the previous thing. Then we can mark this as true, or this 3-length subsegment is possible from the previous strings, and you can make the number still here. If either of them is true, you can make this thing, and using that you can go from 1 to m, and position of m would be 1 if you can make the new phone number, else you cannot make. So we go from 1 to m. If it's 1, we know that the last 2 digits were fin I minus 1 and fin I. You merge them to make it one single number. And if P2 of num is not equal to 0, like P2 of num is initialized as 0, so if you are not able to make, it would be 0. So if it's not 0 and it's possible to make the I minus 2 digits, then you can make possible like you can make I as well. And similarly, if I is greater than 2, we find this number, which is the last 3 digit combined in a single number. If P3 of that is not 0, and you can make the I minus 3 substring of this new number, then you can also make this thing. So if in the end position of M is 0, so you can't make the final subsegment or like for final string, and thus you output -1. If it's true, you have to output a few things which are like the left and right coordinate. You can see the implementation, but it's not worth it to go into because it's a kind of a standard string. So you just start from the last position and you keep on going backward to the string you go. So like suppose here we know that it was like I was made possible because we could go to I minus 2. So you just store that information and in the end you print it. You can see the implementation. I think that should become clear how we print the coordinates. So that's not something you would require like too much knowledge or logic. So yeah, so that's the E problem. Let's go on to the next problem, which is F. F is kind of like a nice problem. What you are given is you are given a number X. What you can do is in a query, you can add a constant C to it, and yeah, which should be between 1 and n. So you are given n in the start of the problem, and the problem is interactive. So basically, the computer has a number X in its mind, and what you can do is you can ask the computer to add C to that number, the constant C, after which the computer will give you back X divided by N fluid. So this is what the interaction would look like. You can make no more than 10 queries, and in the end, you should be able to print the number X which is between 1 and N. So you can print it like this. But the 10 queries and the number going from 1 to 1000, I guess binary exponentiation and bit mask looks a bit obvious. Binary search and all. So this problem is indeed on binary search. What we do is, let me directly go to the code. So we initialized L as a number such that the answer is at always greater than equal to L, and R as a number such that the required number is always less than R. So we always ensure that the actual number X is between L and R, L included, and when L equals to L plus 1 equal to R, we know that the value should be L. So the original X should be L. So we initialize L as 1, R as n, and then we do the binary search. This thing would be obvious if you know about binary search. And in the end, when L plus 1 is equal to R, we print L plus total, because we want to know in the end what is the current value of X. So basically, this way we can find the original value of X, and total stores the total addition that we have done so far. So in the end, you just print L plus the total. So how you check? So during like now the important thing is the check function. In the check function, we need to find if the original number X is less than okay, so this is a bit confusing. So let's say the original number is X and we want to check for K. So check of K would return true if the original number is X, original number X is less than K, and it would return false if the original number is greater than or equal to K. So let's see how we check that thing. So first of all, okay, let's do that when we don't have any addition. So suppose our original number was say 7, and n was 13 maybe. N is 13 and the original number is 7. And suppose we want to know if our given number is less than 9 or not. I want to know if my number is less than 9 or not. I don't know this. I just want to check if my current number is less than 9 or not. So what I can do for this thing is, whatever the number is, X, I will add 4 to it. So if the given number was between 9 and 13, this is our n, this is our k, which we want to check if the number, and this is our x. So we want to check if x is less than k or not. Here we know it is, but x is with the computer, so we don't know. We want to check if the number the computer is storing is less than 9 or not. So what we simply do is we ask computer about the query plus c. So we ask him to do plus 4. So the number x, we know that is between 1 and 12. And we, after adding c, computer will return x by n to us. So if the number was between 1 and 8, adding 4 will make it between 5 and 12. And dividing by 13 would make it to 0 always. But if the number was between 9 and 12, adding 4 will make it 13 to 16, and again dividing by 13 now will make it 1. So it's like a 0 1 information that you are getting. So this way you can get to know if the original number x is less than 9 or not. What you can do is just ask the computer to add 4, and that way you can get to know if the original number greater than is greater than 9 or not, or like it's less than 9 or not. So that way you can get it for 9. But like one like thing that makes it a bit more complicated is each time you add the number, like you ask for plus c, x is also changed to x plus c. So now what we do is we know that total is initialized by 0, and every time we ask a query, we add this to total. So total is the extra addition we have done so far. So what we do is uh, n minus total modulo n. What this extra indicates is this is the extra amount, and if we add this to x, now uh, x would have the same parity as it had earlier. So suppose like say this was 10 instead of 13, and x was, we know some value of x. We know that in the process so far we added 3 to x. Now if we add 7, then whatever the value of x would be, it would change to x plus 10, which means it again has the same parity. So if it was 7, it would become 17. If it was 2, it would become 12. So it again has the same parity with respect to n. So we add this extra. Additionally, we know that since we add total to the, like since we would be adding to x to the total, we know that say suppose initially x was 6 and we have added 57 so far, we would add 3 more to make it divisible by 10. Our n is 10. So if we add 3, it becomes 60. Now we know that if we divide by 10, it would be 6. So we have added 60 extra. Thus, if it was 6, it would become 66. If it was 9, it would become 69. If it was 1, it would become 61. And our computer will give us divided by 10. So we know that mn is the extra amount it would have as compared to the original thing, which was like between 1 and n. So this is the extra thing. N minus x, since in case of 13 and 9, we had to add 4. In case of n being n, and we want to check for k, we would add n minus k. So this is k. So we would add n minus k. And thus, we query about x plus n. Add. We query about this, and if the resulting value is 0 or mn, which is like the new 0 kind of thing. So if it's 0, we know that it is less than the given value, else it's greater than the given value. If you like, I know the explanation to the code might not be clear, but I hope you got the logic that has to be used. You can have your own implementation, or you can check out my implementation for more clarity. But the basic idea is to do binary search on the value x And for a given value, you can find if the original number x was less than this or greater than this. Once you have find the original value, you know the queries that you have performed so far, so you can just add that thing to get the current value of x. So that's the solution for f. Let's go on to the next problem, which is min or tree. This is the last problem for this contest. Yeah. So what you are given is you are given a connected spanning tree, and you are given a connected graph, and you want to make it a spanning tree. So like a spanning tree is a tree of the given graph with the edges from the same graph, but it should be a tree. So you can remove some edges, and the resulting graph should be a tree. Then that graph would be called a spanning tree. So you're given a connected graph with n vertex and m edges, and each edge has a weight. There would be a lot of spanning trees possible. You define oddity of a spanning tree as the bitwise OR of all the weights. So oddity of a tree is the bitwise OR of its weights. Now what you need to find is the minimum possible oddity that can be achieved. So you need to find the minimum oddity spanning tree. So among all the spanning trees, what is the minimum oddity that you can get? So yeah, that's the problem. Let's see one example. Yeah, suppose this was our graph. We can remove this particular edge to make it a tree. And now oddity, which is the bitwise OR of all the edges, would be 2. So oddity of this is equal to 2. If you had instead removed this edge or this edge, it would become this, which makes the new oddity as 3. Since we are interested in the minimum oddity, this is the answer we are looking for. So for each graph, we need to find the minimum oddity, which can be there. So let me explain you the idea of the problem. Okay, so whenever a problem is on bit mask, like we should go into the bit representation of the numbers. And a good thing about bit mask is a particular bit mask is valued more than all the other bit masks combined. So if you have this as 0 and you change it to 1, then this change is more than all the numbers in the front combined. So all of this being 1 is less than just this being 1 and everything else 0. So in bitmask, the a number in front has more power than all the numbers in front of it. So that's why what we do in almost all the problem is start from the maximum bit. If you can make that particular, suppose you start from here, if you can make that particular bit as 1, then it's of your advantage. So here we need to find the minimum possible spanning tree. So what we will try to do is we initialize say all with 1. Suppose all the bits are 1. Now can you make it to 0? If you can make it to 0, it's of your advantage. So again the same logic applies, just in the reverse way. So if you can make it to 0, then even if you take all the elements in front, it's fine, your value would be less. So you initialize all with 1, and you start from left to right. If you can make it to 0, uh, everything else remain 1, and still you can get a spanning tree, then you would change it to 0. Else, even if you change it to 0, you cannot get an answer. You would let it remain 1, because this must be 1 to get the answer. Now, suppose okay, you can change this to 0. Then you check this. You can change this to 0 as well. Then you see this, and this you can't change to 0. That means you must let it be 1 and go ahead. So let's go on to the implementation. I guess that should give more clarity rather than the diagram. Okay. Okay. So what we do is we take in the input all the edges, which is like their UI, VI, and their weight. After that, we initialize all the bits as 1. So pos is a particular bit. So bit 0 to bit 30 are initialized as 1. So this is say bit 0, bit 1, bit 2, and this is say bit 30. Since the weights are between 1 and 10 raised to 9, since the weights are between 1 and 10 raised to 9, uh, 30 bits would be enough. So yeah, so okay. So what we do is we initialize all of them as true, like it is possible. After that, what we do is among all the weights, all the edges, if a particular bit is on, so a weight and this, if the bit is not on in that number, this would result in 0. And if it is on, it would result in a non-zero value. So this thing check if the jth bit, if the jth bit is on in the ith edge weight. So if the ith edge weight, ith edge has jth bit on, we insert it in the odd j. So this way, for each bit, we know what all edges have that particular bit as on. Once you have that, what we do is we initially initialize all the edges as one, like all the bits as one. Now, what we do is, um, yeah, uh, we go from bit 30 to bit 0. This is the value of that particular bit, and we try to change it to 0. So we change that particular bit to 0. If we change that to 0 and our and if panning tree is still possible, then we will continue and like let it be 0. But instead, if changing it to 0, our answer is not possible, a spanning tree is not possible, that means we should remain that, but like that particular bit should remain as 1, and we would add num to our answer. So right now what we need to do is, given that some bits are allowed as 1 and some bits are not allowed, which are 0, is it possible to get a spanning tree? So pos is basically 1 for bits which are allowed and 0 for which are not allowed. So let's see how we would check that. So for the check function, we use TSU. Uh, we initialize that initially all the edges can be taken. So EP means edge possible. Initially all the edges are possible. Then we go over the bits. For the bits which are on, we don't need to care. But for the bits which are not on, all the edges which have that bit should not be taken. So all of the edges which have that bit should not be taken, or else when we would take the or, we would get that particular bit on. So if that bit is on, we won't do anything, like all the edges are fine. But if that particular bit is off, like it is 0, which means we don't have to take that bit should not be in our answer, then all the edges which have that bit on cannot be taken. So we just iterate over them and make edge possible 0. Now, for all the edges which are not possible, we can't do anything. Otherwise, we just take all the edges which are possible and we try to see if taking all the edges we can make a tree. And how we would do that? For all the edges which are possible, we unite them, and if they were not already united, that means the edge is new and we increase the value of count by 1. So just give me a second. Yeah. So that way we can count the number of edges that came in. And if the number of edges we included is n minus 1, that means we formed a tree of edges of n minus 1 edges. And thus we return true. If we were not able to make a tree, then we return false. This way we can ensure if using a particular bits, we can make a tree or not. So if we were able to make a tree, then we won't include that particular bit. Else, we would have to include the bit and we add it to our answer as well. In the end, we print an answer which is the minimum value of the particular graph. So that's the last problem. I hope you were able to get answer to all the problems. If you have any queries, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thank you.